Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining in for today's webinar, which is actually an introduction to Zoho Books. My name is Dheeraj and I take care of partnerships at Zoho Finance. Now, before we actually jump into Zoho Books, I'd like to give you a quick overview of all the applications of Zoho and how Zoho Books fits into them. Zoho has more than 45 different business applications. The different categories you see here will help show the different parts of business that will use them. And looking at these categories, you will also understand that Zoho has all the applications required to run an entire business. So there's all sorts of categories, like starting from sales and marketing, email collaboration, human resources, business intelligence, and much more. Now, finance is one of the most important components within any business and is actually where most of the back office operations take place. Zoho Books is the accounting handle within the business application ecosystem of Zoho and is also the central application within our finance suite of products. So for those of you who are wondering what Zoho Finance Suite is, these applications that you see under finance constitute the Zoho Finance Suite, and each of them serves a different purpose. For example, Zoho Books is the accounting handle, while Zoho Inventory is our online order management and warehouse management tool. We have Zoho Expense for online expense reporting, Zoho Subscriptions to streamline recurring revenue-based billing, and Zoho Invoices is kind of like a subset of Zoho Books that takes care of only the accounts receivables. Zoho Checkout lets you develop payment pages with few simple steps. And finally, there's Zoho Payroll. Now, the most important part or most important feature of all of these applications is that all of them connect to Zoho Books, which is your accounting application. So if you're using any of these applications in addition to Zoho Books, then there's no question about them being integrated. It is pre-integrated and the data just flows in between the two systems. Now, one other thing that I'd like to talk about over here is about a milestone that we hit. So this is actually in 2019, we hit the 50 million users milestone across our product suite, and we have some awesome companies that actually work with us. Now, for those of you who would like to know more about Zoho as a whole, our product offerings, pricing details, what our customers think about us, etc., then I would recommend you to take a look at our website, which is zoho.com. Now let's move over to Zoho Books, which we'll be discussing in detail today. So Zoho Books is Zoho's cloud-based online multi-user accounting platform. So the first page that welcomes you when you log into the application is the dashboard, which you're seeing on my screen now. So dashboard is nothing but a bird's eye view of your current business scenario. And all these data that are being populated on the dashboard are simply generated based off transactions that you've recorded in the system. You have few options to customize the data that are being shown on the dashboard, like few date range options for the cash flow, for the top expense diagram here, for your income and expense chart. You can customize these based out of these the date options that we provide. Now, another cool thing about the dashboard is that there's a direct link to reports. So for example, you go through these total receivables here, and there's a split of the aging details for these overdue amount. Now, if you'd like to see the number of invoices that are overdue for more than 45 days, all you have to do is simply click over here and it directly takes you to the aging details report for all invoices overdue for more than 45 days. And all the reports that you see here are dynamic reports, which means there's a drill down available to the transaction level. Another interesting thing about reports is the ability to schedule reports from within Zoho Books, which means you can set up a frequency. You can choose a frequency that will work for you and then choose the recipients of this report. It can be internal users or external individuals as well, and also then select the format in which you'd like to receive a copy of this report and then simply hit on save. So depending on the frequency that you set up here, you will keep receiving this report in your email automatically from Zoho Books. Now, there's also another scenario where you go through this report and you decide, okay, there's further analysis required. In such cases, you would expect to export the report immediately. that is possible as well. You can simply come in here and choose to export the report then and there, and you can choose the format in which you'd like to have the data exported. Now moving back to dashboard, there's also an option, there's also a section in dashboard that actually displays your bank accounts along with their bank balances. So we'll be talking about banking in detail moving forward in the session. Now, as I mentioned initially, Zoho Books is a multi-user platform. So this means multiple people from your firm can access the system at the same time. Now, the system can also be accessed both from the web application as well as through mobile apps. It means there are applications available for both for Android as well as iOS, and you can have your accounting information right in your mobile phones itself. Now, let's go take a quick look at how new users can be invited to the application. So you can go to users and roles under settings, and all you have to do is simply click on invite user. You can provide the email address of the person that you're inviting, the name, and also the role that you'd like to assign to that particular person. So depending on the role you assign is what the user would have access to the system. And as soon as you create an organization in Zoho Books, we provide you some standard roles that you can work with. But if in case you're not happy with those, or you think you need more configurations with roles, then you can create new roles right from scratch. So you can go to the new roles section and then create a custom role of your own requirement. Now, an example is, let's say you have a user that would need access to the customer and vendor information, but you do not expect them to make any changes to the existing information. Then you can simply take off these and just have view access for those users. So in this particular role, the user will only have view access to customer and vendor information. The same way you can take off access for modules that the user should not be accessing, and provide access to modules that they should be accessing as well. Same applies for all the modules as well as backend operations like settings, dashboard, and even reports. So depending on the role that you create and assign to users is what the user would have access when they log into the application. The next module that we'll be discussing is items. So items are nothing but your product catalog. Both products as well as services can be configured as items in Zoho Books. Now, creating an item is really simple. You can choose between if it's a goods or a service that is being created, and then start entering all the basic details of the product, like the name, the SKU number, unit, and then the sales and purchase information of the product. Now, these information, so let's say in this particular case, you're creating a service, so there's not necessarily a purchase information associated to it. So you simply turn that off and then keep it as simply the sales information. Now, when it's goods or a physical product that you're creating, then you might have purchase information, and you might also have the requirement of keeping track of stock. So Zoho Books allows you to do inventory tracking for your products. And once you choose to enable this checkbox here in your item creation page, the system requests you to select the inventory account under which you'd like to have this particular item tracked, and also enter information like the opening stock rate per unit, assign reorder point, and also assign a preferred vendor as well for this particular item. So the stock tracking in Zoho Books works in such a manner that every time you create a bill for a particular item, the stock goes up, and every time you create an invoice for a particular item, the stock goes down. Now, after you've set up an item, you will be taken directly to the items list, where you will see the list of all products as well as services that you've created in Zoho Books. And for all those products for which you have enabled inventory tracking, you can see the stock on hand displayed alongside it. We also allow you to do stock adjustments, which can be done under this inventory adjustments module. Both value adjustments as well as quantity adjustments can be done in Zoho Books for inventory tracked items. Now, one another important thing in Zoho Books is the ability to import and export data to the application or from the application. So you'll note you can have data brought in from your historic system to Zoho Books. So here in this particular scenario, you can see there's an option to import items, and once you choose to import items, you will be directly taken to the screen where you can download a sample file. So sample file is kind of like a template and helps you understand how we expect the data to be brought into the system. So all you need to do is simply make sure that the file that you're trying to bring in aligns with the format in the sample file, and you'll be able to have the data imported to the system. And in the next step, after you choose the file, in the next step, you will be able to map the column headers of your file with actual fields in Zoho Books. So a mapping can be done. The file that you're trying to bring in need not always have the exact column headers of the file, of the module names or of the field names in Zoho Books. Now moving over to the next module, which is basically banking. So in Zoho Books, you will be able to add your business bank account or your business credit card account for automatic feeds import. So we have connected with more than 5,000 financial institutions. So these are the list of banks or credit cards that we integrate with. And as you can see, it's a long list as well. So all you have to do is simply search for the bank that you work with and select it, and then start entering your online banking credentials. Once you enter the credentials and hit on continue, your bank account will be connected to Zoho Books, and every transaction taking place in your bank account would automatically be brought in as feeds to the application, making the reconciliation process a lot easier. Now, to explain things better, I've actually set up a bank account with some feeds brought in as well. So let's go directly to that. Here's the bank account. You can see there's a list of uncategorized transactions. So all these transactions that you see under the uncategorized list are basically feeds that came in from the bank. So there's the reference number, the description, and the payee information as statement details for every single feed that came in. And then it classifies it as deposits and withdrawals as well. Now, as I choose one of these feeds that came in from the bank, the system automatically brings me a list of possible matches to which I can actually match this particular feed. Now, let's assume that this particular feed has not yet been created as a transaction in Zoho Books. In such cases, you have an option to directly categorize this as a new transaction from the same page itself. So since this is a withdrawal, there are a lot of categories to which I can actually categorize that particular $7,500 withdrawal here. So it can either be an expense or a vendor advance, and any of these other options that you see over here as well. And once you have matched or categorized all of the feeds that came in from the bank, then it's time for you to reconcile your bank account. And reconciliation is fairly simple in Zoho Books as well. So all you have to do is simply go to the settings icon in your bank account and choose to reconcile your account. If you have done any prior reconciliations, then all of them will actually be listed here. Now for this particular reconciliation that you're performing, you have to hit on initiate reconciliation, select the end date, and also enter the closing balance as on this particular date in your bank account. Now just for the sake of explaining, let me type in some random number here and hit on start reconciliation. Now in this page, all you have to do is simply select the transactions that actually make up this particular closing balance in your bank account. If there's any opening balance, you can see that it automatically gets carried forward. So the closing balance of the previous reconciliation gets carried forward as opening balance for the next reconciliation automatically. And then you can select all the transactions over here that are required to be included in this reconciliation until the difference becomes 0. And once the difference becomes 0, then you can have the account reconciled. So that's that easy. That's pretty much about reconciliation here. Let's also talk about few other actions that are available in the banking. So within a particular bank account, you're also able to set up transaction rules, which means you can set up rules for both deposits and withdrawal feeds coming in from your bank account. Now let's take a particular example. So this is one transaction rule that has been set up for withdrawals. Now the criteria that has been set up for this rule is description contains payment. So every time a feed that comes in from a bank account with the description having the word payment, then I want that to be recorded as an expense under the account accounting fees. So the system automatically checks for any particular feed that comes in from the bank And if it matches this criteria that you set up here, then it automatically puts that feed under a separate section called recognized. So here you can see there's a separate section called recognized, which basically lists all the feeds that came in from the bank and satisfies a transaction rule that you set up. So this is a particular feed that came in and satisfies the rule that we just took a look at. Now from here, I can bulk select the transactions and categorize them easily. So I don't have to go in and categorize each transactions one by one. All the transactions that satisfies the rule, I can just categorize them in bulk, saving me a lot of time. Now that's pretty much about banking. The next thing that we're going to take a look at is sales. The first module under sales is customers. So the system allows you to create all your customers in the application itself, and creating a customer is really simple. So you can start entering information like the name, company, details, customer email, mark them as a business or an individual according to the entity that they are. And we also allow you to do multi-currency invoicing, which means if you're doing overseas business, then you might have customers who would need invoices or estimates or sales orders in their respective currency. So depending on the currency of your customer, you can have that selected while you create them itself. And Zoho Books has a mechanism that fetches day-to-day exchange rates automatically into the application. So let's say for this particular customer, I've selected the currency as Indian rupees, even though my base currency is Singapore dollars here. So every time I create a new transaction, the currency for this particular customer would be Indian rupees, and the exchange rate gets applied automatically. And you can also modify the exchange rate if required as well. Now, another unique feature in Zoho Books is the ability to enable client portal for your customers. So you're able to provide your customers access to a portal of your organization to which they can log in and view or take a look at all the transactions that you've done with them. So we'll take a look at how the client portal works later in this session. And once you've set up a customer, each customer gets a unique dashboard of their own. So this is a particular customer that I've set up. You can see there's information about outstanding receivables, unused credits, payment terms for the client, all the information regarding the address, credit limits if you've set up one, and also transactions to which I've associated the customer. So each transaction to which I've associated the customer will actually show up within the customer dashboard itself. There's also an option for you to send out statements to your clients. You can email them, take a printout, download a copy as well. There are multiple options to do to get access to the statement for a particular client. Now, the next modules that you see under customers, all the other following modules under customers allow you to start off a sale by sending out an estimate and end the sale by accepting a payment for an invoice. So you can start off by sending out an estimate to your customer, and let's take a look at how that's done. You can select the customer here. I select the customer. And then estimate number is actually auto-generated. You can set it up to be manual as well. And then you simply select the items. So whatever items that you're selling to this client, you choose them here. There's all sorts of customization options as well. Like as you can see here, there's an option for you to take a retainer payment. So the amount for this estimate is 600. So if the customer choose to accept the estimate, then you'd like to take a 50% retainer for this particular deal. So as soon as the estimate is accepted, you will notice that a retainer invoice gets created in the system automatically and gets sent out to the customer so that the client can make the first half of the payment for this particular deal that you're doing with them. You can also customize these fields. As you can see, there's the adjustment field can say something that you like. It can be a miscellaneous charge or something like that. Taxes can be associated at line item section. And finally, you can simply click on Save and Send, which will send out this estimate to your customer directly from Zoho Books. So let me just save this as draft here and manually mark it as sent, just so that because I do not have an actual customer to receive this. Now, I did speak about a client portal being available in Zoho Books. Now, let's take a look at how the client portal would look like for Dave, which is one of the customers that I have. Let's take a look at how the client portal would be for Dave when he logs into my organizations portal. So this is how the client portal would look like. The customer Dave Milner, let's assume that Dave Milner just logged into my organizations portal. He will be taken to the home page where he'll find information about all outstanding invoices, outstanding retainers that he has with me, and he will also be able to update information like his business shipping address, billing address. Any of those information can actually be updated by the customer themselves. They'll be able to send an email and also review my service from within the client portal. Estimates can be viewed and accepted or declined from the client portal. So we just created an estimate for Dave, which is estimate number 67. The same estimate is actually available in the client portal right now. So if the customer can actually go through the estimate, choose to accept or decline the estimate, and also exchange notes with me over the comment section. So any comment that gets posted here, so let's a test comment here. Let me just add one, and let me just accept the estimate. So anything that gets posted here would automatically reflect in Zoho Books as well. The client can take a look at the invoices and pay for invoices from within the client portal. Take a look at the statements, download statements, so he or she does not have to contact you to get the statement of accounts with you. They can just simply log into the portal and download the statement themselves. Now, the estimate that we were looking at was estimate number 67. This just got accepted from within the client portal. Now, let me just take you back and just refresh this. You will notice that now the estimate number 67 is in accepted status. The estimate has been viewed by the customer. All that details are here. And on the comments, you will notice that there's the comment that was posted by Dave from within the client portal available as a comment here. And you can see all these information. Everything is available as a timeline view for you to track. And once the estimate is accepted, you can choose to convert this to a sales order or directly convert it into an invoice. Now, if you choose to convert it into an invoice, all the information that you had on the estimate will get carried forward to the invoice creation page as well. And after you go through all of this, you can choose to send the invoice directly from within Zoho Books itself. Now, these are payment gateways that connect to Zoho Books. There are much more as well. Now, if you work with the payment gateway, then the invoice that is getting sent out to the customer will actually contain a payment link. The client can receive the invoice and then choose to pay for the invoice directly using the payment link that gets sent out to them. So that's how easy it is to create transactions in the application. Now, recurring invoices is another interesting feature, so let me explain that quickly as well. So recurring invoices is nothing but to explain this better, let's say you're selling the same set of products to a particular customer on a fixed frequency. So you can automate the invoice creation in Zoho Books by setting up a recurring expense. All you have to do, it's pretty much similar to creating a normal invoice, but it's just that you're associating a frequency to it. So here you can see that there's a monthly frequency associated to the recurring invoice. You choose the products that needs to be sold to the customer on a fixed frequency, and then you simply hit on save. This means the invoice gets generated automatically and gets sent out to the customer. You can automate the payment collection as well if you have a payment gateway connected to Zoho Books, which means you will have the invoice created automatically according to the frequency that you've set up. The invoice gets, the client's credit card on file gets charged, and then a copy of the invoice gets sent out to the customer. So you can completely automate the process with recurring invoices. Now, for purchases, pretty much the same. Just like you create customers, you can set up vendors as well, and for each vendors you get a dashboard of their own, which is pretty similar to customer's dashboard. You can configure or create expenses in Zoho Books. So the system allows you to take a picture of a receipt and then have it uploaded so that Zoho Books automatically scans details like the date, the vendor information, and also amount. And with a click, you can have that converted to an expense in the application, or you can just go by the manual method of creating an expense by selecting the expense account, entering all the other information, and manually attaching a receipt if required. So that's also another important thing. For each and every transaction that you create, you have an option to attach documents, supporting documents to it, be it invoices, be it even journal entries. You have an option to have attachments to those transactions so that at a later point of time, if you'd like to have a reference, then it's really possible. Now, just like in customers, you start off a transaction by creating an estimate. In vendors, in purchases, you start off by sending out a purchase order to your vendor with a list of items that you'd like to receive from them. And once the purchase order is accepted by the vendor and the goods are delivered to you, you can have the purchase order converted to a bill with a click of a button. Just like you convert an estimate to an invoice, you can convert a purchase order to a bill and then record the payment of a bill within Zoho Books itself. Now, you also have recurring transactions under purchases. So just like you had recurring invoices under sales, you have recurring expenses. A good example is rent. So if your business is liable to pay rent for the office space or something, so that's something that you'd be doing on a monthly basis. And if you'd like to have the expense creation to be automated, then you can set that up as a recurring expense. The same applies for recurring bills as well. So if you're purchasing something on a fixed frequency from the same vendor, then you can have the bill creation to be automated by setting up a recurring bill. All you have to do is simply go in there and record the payment of the bill that gets generated. So that's pretty much about purchases as well. Now let's go take a look at the accountant module, which holds a lot of important features. So the most important feature or module within accountant is chart of accounts. So when you create an account in Zoho Books, we provide you with a list of accounts that you can work with. But as and when you find accounts of your requirement missing, then you're free to create new ones in the chart of accounts of Zoho Books. So creating a new account is really simple. All you have to do is simply select the account type, which we have a lot of options. Let's say it's expense. You can name the account and then simply hit on save. That actually becomes a new account in your chart of accounts. We also allow you to create sub accounts under existing parent accounts. So if I choose to make this a sub account, then I can simply select an existing expense account as the parent account for this new one that I'm creating. So this basically helps in reconciliation a lot. Now you'll also notice that some of the accounts over here have a lock symbol associated with them, which means they cannot be deleted or modified. All you can do is simply rename them. This is basically because they serve a particular purpose within Zoho Books. So like the default accounts receivables or accounts payable account, they serve a particular purpose, which is why you cannot actually modify those accounts within the application. Now the next thing is manual journals. So you can create journal entries in Zoho Books, which is pretty straightforward, but we have few cool features associated with manual journals, like you can have a template created. Now the use case that I can provide to you is, let's say you're using a third-party payroll application to run your payroll, and on a monthly basis you bring in those payroll entries as journals to Zoho Books. Now every time you bring in those journal entries, it will be a pain to select the accounts one by one. Now instead what you can do is you can set that up as a template and use the same template every time you create the payroll journal entries. So you can see there's an option to create a new journal from an existing template. So all you have to do is first set up the template and then create journal entries from that template whenever required. You also have an option to set up recurring journal entries. Just like you have those recurring transactions, you have an option to have a journal entry get posted in the system on a fixed frequency according to your requirement. We allow you to import chart of journals and also chart of accounts as well. So when you're migrating from your existing platform, you can have the chart of accounts from that platform brought into Zoho Books directly. And we support multiple formats as well. So in each and every module, we have this import and export functionality. So every single module we discuss, for example, customers, you have this hamburger icon which contains the option to import customers in multiple formats. The same thing applies for your estimates, invoices, all of these modules as well. Now, the next thing that we're going to take a look at is the reports in Zoho Books. We have more than 45 plus reports available in the application. As I mentioned earlier, all of these reports are dynamic reports and you can customize them to an extent as well. Like you can see here, I customize the date range. I can choose to run the P&L report by comparing it with previous year or previous periods so that I can understand how my business is performing. So here's the comparison right in front of me. And yeah, the same thing applies for other reports as well. And there's a drill down available in each and every report. Like if I go to my cash flow statement, I can simply click on net income. It takes me to the profit and loss here. And again, over here, it is a further drill down to the transaction. And when I click on it, it takes me directly to that particular transaction. So it's dynamic reports. All of these are dynamic reports, and we have reports for all the modules. So if you do sign up for Zoho Books, I'd recommend you to play around with all of these reports. Most of them are self-explanatory, and if you do have any questions, then there's always our wonderful support team that you can reach out to. There's an option for you to initiate a chat or call us in a toll-free number and get assistance, or simply send us an email and then have us reach out to you with the solution that you're looking for. Now, we'll also quickly take a look at a few of the settings available in the application. So under organization profile is where you simply enter the basic information about your company, choose your fiscal year, choose the report basis to be accrual or cash, all of those basic details. Opening balances, so when you're migrating from your existing platform to Zoho Books, we allow you to enter opening balances for your accounts. You can run a trial balance in your previous system and have that brought in as opening balance for the respective accounts in Zoho Books, and then start from there. There are certain preferences available for each and every modules, like for estimates, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of preferences here. So there's an option to automatically convert an estimate to an invoice as soon as the estimate is accepted. You can have the terms and conditions, customer notes, all of that configured according to your business, and this is what would be displayed on the PDF copy of the estimate that gets sent out to your customers. The same thing applies for other transaction modules like invoices, items. All of these modules have their own set of preferences, which you can take a look at one by one and have that customized according to your business needs. We allow you to choose from a wide variety of templates for each and every transactions. Like for invoices alone, you can see there are a bunch of templates that you can choose from. Each of these templates serves a different purpose and different segment of business, like different industry types. So there would be specific requirements for your industry. So there's detailed templates like Spreadsheet Plus that has a lot of information on it. But if you'd like to keep it simple, there are simple templates like compact, simple templates as such, basic templates. You can choose the ones that actually work for you, and there's customizations available for these templates as well. Now, if all of these templates do not work for you, then there's always an option for you to create a template from scratch using custom HTML codes. All you have to do is simply reach out to our support team, and they will enable custom HTML templates for you, which allows you to create a template from scratch using custom HTML coding. Now, reminders is a really cool automation provided by Zoho Books. Now, where it actually helps you is in payment collection from your customers. So payment collection from customers is actually a pain point for a lot of businesses. And in Zoho Books, you can leave it out to the application, and the application will automatically send out reminder emails to your customers based on criteria that you set up. So here in this particular reminder, you can see that the criteria is to send out a reminder on the due date of the invoice. So I've chosen to send out the reminder to the customer and have copy myself on the email, so that I know that the email is being sent out to the customer. Now the content of the reminder email is again customizable as well. So you can have your own content here, add additional fields, and then customize it according to your requirement and have it sent out to your customers whenever there's an invoice that's overdue. And it's not just one reminder that you can set up, you can have multiple reminders, each one going out on a different date. So one can actually go out 2 days before the due date, another one on the due date, and the third one can actually go out 5 days after the due date. So depending on how you'd like to set it up, you can do it in Zoho Books. The same thing applies for bills as well. So you can make sure that you're paying your vendors on time by setting up reminders for your bills in Zoho Books. Now let's also quickly take a look at a few integrations that we offer. So as mentioned earlier, there's a lot of options available for you for online payments. So you can set up one payment gateway that will work for you and then have it connected to Zoho Books. So every time you send out an invoice, you will have the payment link sent out to your customer along with the invoice itself. Now integrations, we integrate with a lot of other applications. Zoho applications obviously are on the list. There's a bunch of Zoho applications, obviously Zoho Finance applications as well. The list just goes on, so I would recommend you to take a look at them, the benefits of these integrations when you sign up for Zoho Books. We also integrate with third-party applications. Like you can see, these are the third-party applications to which we connect with. In case if you're working with any of these applications, you can have those connected to Zoho Books and have these two applications talk to each other as well. Now, and one last interesting feature available in Zoho Books is the automation module. So automations are nothing but if-then statements. So if a particular criteria that you set up is true, then you execute a particular task in the workflow. So the execution can actually be an email alert that sends out an email to your customers or to somebody within the organization, or it can actually be an in-app notification. Field updates can update a particular field whenever the criteria that you set up is true. Webhooks actually allow you to communicate with third-party applications or even custom functions as well. So custom functions actually allows you to solve complex use cases. Like a good example is, let's say in your business you have commissions for your salespersons. So every time an invoice is paid, you pay your salespeople a unique commission based on a criteria that you've set up or a formula that you've set up. So if you'd like to have these commissions calculated, then you can set up a custom function and associate that to a workflow rule and use that in your workflow. Use that in Zoho Books to automate the commission calculation. So custom functions are actually written on Deluge. So if you have expertise in coding, then you can set that up by yourself. Or if you have an in-house developer, that will be great as well. Or you can also reach out to our support team and they will be able to help figure out any errors that you're facing while you write custom functions. Yep, so that's pretty much about Zoho Books. One last thing is taxes. So I've kept it towards the end so that I can explain the country-specific editions as well. So Zoho Books actually comes with country-specific editions for certain nations. So for them, the tax system would actually be compliant to that particular locality. If it's not a country-specific edition, then you can definitely use a global edition where you will set up the tax rates and tax settings. You will be configuring that as well. And once you do so, you will be able to run the tax reports. You can associate these taxes to transactions and then run tax reports within the application to understand the tax liability towards your government. Now, if in case you actually are from one of the regions where we have a country-specific edition. So let me show you the regions where we have country-specific editions. So this is actually the website of Zoho Books. So we were looking at the global edition of the application till now. Now you can see that these are the country specific editions that we have. So let's say you're from United Kingdom, then you will notice that Zoho Books is actually MTD compliant and allows you to keep track of your VAT. So the system allows you to push transactions to your MTD site and stay compliant to the laws in the UK itself. And the same thing applies to other country specific editions as well. Like for India, we are GST compliant. For the Middle East countries, we are compliant to the tax systems there. For Australia, we are compliant to the tax systems in Australia. Like if I switch to Australia, you will notice that there's the tax compliance here. You have GST in contacts, GST in items. So the tax compliance is available for these country specific editions. Let me also quickly show you the Indian edition as well, so you understand the GST compliance that we have. So in the Indian edition, again, you will be able to connect Zoho Books to the GST portal and have transactions pushed to the GST portal seamlessly from within the application itself. And one last thing about it's not really about the application, but this is an information for any accountants or chartered accountants, bookkeepers that are actually listening to this webinar. So we have a rewarding advisor program for professionals that would like to manage their clients on a suite of products. So I would strongly recommend you to register for this program. It does not involve any cost. All you have to do is go to the website books.zoho.com. You will find a section that says accountants. You can click on accountants and then register for the program, and one of my teammates will actually reach out to you to have you onboarded as a partner. Again, I repeat, there's no cost involved. If you like Zoho Books, if you like what you saw here, then you'll definitely be able to manage your clients on our platform, and for every client you bring in, there'll be benefits from Zoho as well. So I'd strongly recommend accountants, bookkeepers, and tax professionals to consider Zoho Books as an option so that you can seamlessly manage your clients on our platform. Yep, so that's pretty much about everything that we should be discussing. I hope this was actually an informative session and has piqued your interest on the application. If it has piqued your interest, then I'm pretty sure that you'd have a lot of questions that you'd like to ask one of our employees or one of our experts here. So we will be taking questions after this, where you can ask all your questions on everything that you saw here. I hope to see you on a future session like this pretty soon. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.